Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. I walked in the door and immediately realized that something had happened. The place was clean, sparkling, pine, polished chrome, clean for the first time in centuries. Donna stood nervously in the hallway, dressed up. Not to go outside, but not in her typical, lately, sloppy manner. Her hair was up and shining. The children were getting in the way, and there was not a sound in the house. Her face betrayed her guilt and nervousness. I was reminded of our early years, actually not that long ago. As a child, she never had much money, and she went to school on loans, worked in a cooperative, and took advantage of summer earnings. She was very frugal. When we got married, I worked for 2 years and made a good living, almost $50,000 a year. I encouraged her to buy things she needed, and even things she didn't need but wanted. Every time she bought something for herself, she felt guilty and cleaned like crazy. The whole house, from top to bottom. It was as if she was punishing herself. It took me years to get rid of this habit. The house looked the same again, feeling guilty. I imagined that things could get back to normal soon, judging by the way things were going. My fears have increased dramatically in the last couple of days, when the worst of my fears were confirmed. A concerned friend brought this issue to the fore after seeing my wife in an intimate embrace with another man. I started my preparations less than 48 hours before. I was hoping that I would have more time. Admittedly, this was one of the few scenarios I foresaw: confession and confrontation. I prayed in my mind that she wouldn't give up completely. "Alan," she said anxiously, "we need to talk. No preliminary remarks, no soft guidance. Straight to the point." Too fast almost, I had to act fast before she ruined everything to the point of no return. I shook my head, put my briefcase on the floor, and walked over to her. "After," I said quietly. She was wringing her hands. Her face was red. Her hands were shaking. "I'm having an... She gasped as my fist shot forward, slamming into her stomach with as much force as I could muster. She wrapped her arms around him, squeezing my forearm, unable to breathe. I put my arm around her shoulders, holding her back so she wouldn't collapse to the floor. I wanted her to get back on her feet. It would have worked better if she had been standing. After about 30 seconds, the first raucous breaths of air entered her lungs, and tiny screams of agony escaped her lips as she slowly regained the ability to breathe. I examined her, still fascinated by her beauty. The tendons in her neck tensed, her nostrils flared, and her mouth opened wide in an attempt to let in the life-giving air she so desperately needed. When her legs could support her again, she staggered to her feet, gripping the door jamb with one hand, and her breathing steadied. She stared at me in shock and fear. Of course, in her opinion, I would never lift a finger against her. On the other hand, there has never been a reason before this moment. I, on the other hand, kept calm while waiting for her. I can't believe you hit me," she finally whined. "I didn't do anything like that. Is there something you wanted to say? If not, why don't we have a drink?" It was a busy day. "No, Alan, I can't live like this. I want..." "Ah!" she screamed as a punch to the stomach lifted her off the ground. Her solar plexus shot out, leaving her gasping for breath. Her frightened eyes stared at me as I lowered her to the ground on her back. Her lips were opening and closing, desperately gasping for air. My legs pinned her arms to her sides, and tears flowed from the corners of her eyes as the battle for oxygen was slowly being lost. I sat up a little and heard a faint rush of air into her lungs. A wheezing, whistling sound brought her vision back. The momentary look of relief on her face disappeared when I put my hand over her mouth and nose, strangling her. She fought it, squirming, shaking her head, but all in vain. I snuggled up to her. I think she got the message. She was unconscious for only about 30 seconds, enough time for me to lay her down on the couch, her head resting on my lap. I didn't even need to do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. She came back on her own. My wife has been sitting up abruptly for 8 years, gasping loudly, her eyes wide open. She was clearly terrified. I hugged her and gently lowered her. I waited for her to come to her senses and felt fear and trembling take over her body. She turned her eyes to me, tears streaming from them. I brushed them away. "Is there something you wanted to talk about, baby?" I asked softly, stroking her cheek. I let my hand slide lower, wrapping around her long, slender neck. Her eyes met mine, her nervous questioning appraising. Mine are waiting patiently. I didn't even squeeze it. I made lasagna," she whispered. Beer or wine at dinner? Wine would be perfect, I replied. My hands began to move, rubbing and massaging her neck. I could see a glimmer of fear in her mesmerizing green eyes. You know that I love you more than anything in the world, don't you, Donna? She nodded cautiously. I'll do anything for you. I would fight for you. I would die for you. I would gladly, without hesitation, kill for you. You mean so much to me. Her eyes filled with tears, and she nodded again. I know. I picked her up in my arms and hugged her tightly. You look terrible, I whispered. Let's go to the bathroom with you and get yourself cleaned up. Don't come out until you've cleaned yourself up. I took her to the master bedroom and took her to the bathroom. As soon as the door closed, I rushed into battle. I wanted us to stay out of touch for at least a few hours. It took only 30 seconds to rush outside and disable access to the phone where he entered the house. It also took care of the DSL internet. I found her purse in the kitchen where she usually lay, and a few minutes later I got her mobile phone. I turned the bell so that it vibrated and put it in my pocket. She was still in the bathroom. Feeling a little better about being in control of the situation, I changed my work clothes. For a moment, I almost put on my sweatpants and an old t-shirt, as I did almost every night. Instead, I chose Dockers and a good polo. She dressed up for me. It was the least I could do. I combed my hair, looking in the mirror above the dresser. I heard the door open and saw my wife nervously look out, gather her courage and enter the bedroom. She flinched when I approached her with open arms. This evening started badly, I told her, coming closer. I hugged her. Hi, baby, I'm so sorry I'm a little late. You look amazing. She hugged me gently, then a little tighter. You were only a few minutes late. Thanks for calling in advance. The lasagna is still warm, she said softly. Are the children walking? I left them with my parents. I thought we needed to spend some time together. 1. I let go of her and lifted her chin, kissing her gently on the lips. You're right. I think we both understand that things are not perfect between us. I'd like to work on it. Work on it? What is it? She asked anxiously. Absolutely. I took her hand, heading back into the living room. I'm starving. Let's eat and maybe after dinner we can talk. Dinner was awkward. We talked about children and work, but not much about what was going on in her life. We carefully avoided the elephant in the room. We opened a bottle of wine, but at the end of dinner it was still a third full. Twice during the meal I felt the vibration of her phone. I ignored it. When we were done, I got up and collected the plates. Dinner was great as always. You're a wonderful cook. I don't think I'm telling you that enough. Why don't you relax while I get myself cleaned up? I'll be back in just a few minutes. Donna thanked me, and I saw her pop into the kitchen as I was leaving to get a second helping of plates. When I returned, she was standing next to the table with her purse on it, and she looked worried. I suspected she was looking for her phone. I have a kitchen, baby. Don't take it personally. I'm going to use the bathroom. I'll be right back. I saw that guilty, nervous look again. She would have made a lousy poker player. I knew she was probably heading for the phone in our bedroom. A surprise awaited the girl. I took her phone out of my pocket to look at the call log. She had a password-protected phone, but for the last couple of weeks I haven't been sitting idly by as soon as my concerns surfaced, or better to say, were revealed. Her password was stupidly simple. The last 4 of her social security numbers. The last call was from Emily. As far as I knew, we didn't have any friends named Emily. I pressed redial and a male voice anxiously answered after only 1 ring. How did he take it? Run away. If you know what's good for you, run and don't slow down. I hung up the phone. A few seconds later, she entered the living room white as a sheet. I walked over to her and led her back to the dining table, sitting her down on the edge. I put a glass of wine in front of her. Wait a minute. I need you to do something for me before we talk, okay? She nodded calmly. She sat with her hands folded in front of her, trying to stop shaking. A minute later, I returned from the office and put a piece of paper in front of her. I want you to read this. Think about it. Carefully weigh the words. I'll be back for you in 10 minutes. During that time, all I want you to do is think about what it means to you. She looked at the paper written with the words she had told me a little over 8 years ago. I, Donna, take you, Alan, as my lawful wedded husband, to have and keep from this day forward, for better, for worse, for wealth, for poverty, in sickness and in health, to love and cherish until death do us part. And here I swear my loyalty to you. When I returned to her 10 minutes later, I saw that the words were smeared with her tears. She looked at me nervously. "Come on," I said to her, holding out my hand. "Let's sit in the living room." She obediently followed me. I know the evening didn't go the way she planned. She was by no means a sucker, and she was always ready to stand up for herself. Her actions, or lack of them, spoke to how my response affected her. I sat down next to her on the sofa. "Let me tell you how I feel about those words, baby. I consider this a contract of the highest order. You said it after much thought and preparation and swore before God, our family, our friends, and each other. Do you agree?" "Yes, but," she whispered. "Shh. Not yet. You'll have your turn. As far as I understand, this is very straightforward. There is only one exit clause in the contract. There's only one way out of this. One. Everything is written there in a very straightforward way. Can you tell me what the exit conditions are?" She stopped talking, and I gave her a little push. "Donna, what is the only way out?" "Until death do us part," she whispered. "That's exactly it. I know that everything has not been going perfectly for almost a year now. I don't quite understand why. I would be willing to work on it. I can't do this alone. I need to know if you want to use your exit clause." "No," she answered quickly. "Are you sure?" "I would not like to do this, but I am ready to do this option if you feel that it has come to this." "Please, Alan, no." Her voice betrayed her, stuttering, almost pleading. It hurt me to scare her like that, but I felt it was important if there was any chance of saving our marriage. "Excellent. Today I can swear to you that I have never violated this contract. I love you and cherish you, although I may not always show it as well as I should. Fortunately, it was for the best, for wealth and for the most part for health. Don't you agree?" She nodded. "Yes, for the most part. I have been 100% loyal to you since this contract was signed. I've never been with another woman. I may have been tempted and even behaved in a way that I might have been ashamed of, but I've never had a relationship with anyone but you. Can you say the same thing?" I saw the fear in her eyes return. She hesitated. "I've done some bad things, Alan. I'm ashamed of some of them now. However, I have never been with another man since I devoted myself to you. Do you believe me?" I took her hand in mine. "I know. If I thought otherwise, I might be tempted to terminate the contract. Do you understand?" She nodded her head in alarm. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I would like you to tell me now what you were thinking, sitting there and rereading our contract, what it means to you." "It's hard," she said. "I know. It's been hard for me the last few months to see you willingly ignoring it. Tell me, please." When I said those words, I meant them absolutely sincerely. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I couldn't imagine life without you. I think we had about 5 or 6 absolutely wonderful years, then a couple that were good but not unambiguous. For the last 6 months I forgot. I forgot what was important. I started to think that maybe life could be better. She hesitated, breathing raggedly. God, I'm so sorry, Alan. I don't know how I thought about it, but I imagined life without you. If you were unhappy, Donna, why don't you tell me? Work to make our marriage better, not sabotage it. You have to understand that there are only 2 people fighting for our marriage, you and me. There will always be those whose goal is to undermine it for a variety of reasons. Jealousy, lust, and envy are just some of them. Only you and I, the team, have to fight for this. I can't do this alone. I've never thought about it that way, she said. Do you remember how we signed this contract? She smiled at me sadly. I know, it was wonderful. I can't believe I've ever forgotten even for a moment. I would like to confirm our contract and assure it again. Could you do this to me? It's been almost 5 weeks since we last confirmed this. How? Was it really that long ago? 5 weeks tomorrow. It's been the longest time since we've been married. I'm sorry, she whispered. Shh. Let's forget about it for a while. Will you come with me to our bedroom and do it again? Do you still want me to do this? After tonight? I want this more than anything in the world. She smiled. Could you give me a few minutes? To prepare for you? Absolutely. We were lying naked together after making love for the first time in a very long time. We have twice confirmed our obligations on my part, and several more times on hers. We ended up holding her and she was crying, clinging to me. When her tears stopped, I climbed back on top of her, amazed at how readily my body responded to her after the stress of that evening. Plunging deep into her, I kissed her on the face. I'm sorry that I let this get away from us. I never wanted that. You mean the whole world to me. Me too. I am. I love you, Alan. I'm so sorry. You have given me a wonderful life and two wonderful children. A better life than I ever thought possible all those years ago. I almost ruined everything, didn't I? Too close to feel comfortable. I'm sorry that I hurt you. I couldn't let you say the words that would break our contract. I couldn't do it. I should have stopped you. Please forgive me. The corner of her mouth lifted slightly. God, it hurts. I still can't believe you hit me. I'm still in pain. She looked worried again. Do I want to know what would have happened if I had gone through this? I shook my head sadly. She nodded back. Thank you for giving us another chance. I slowly, lovingly entered her body. I like being inside you, I whispered. Me too. We are not doing this enough. I know. I'm sorry about that too, I said. What's going to happen now? What is it? She asked, her hand caressing my side. Every few seconds, I slid into her again, enjoying the fusion, doing just enough to stay firm. I've been thinking about it a lot. The relationship between a man and a woman is very similar to home, I explained. Some people get apartments. Temporarily, few people are interested in this. They move out after a year and get a new one. Marriages are like a home. You invest in it. You dedicate yourself to it. You work to make it a home. In a good marriage, both spouses do their best to keep the house in order, improve it, and keep it in order. I paused to pump up my beautiful wife a little while restoring the steel in my barrel. We had a wonderful house that our friends and family envied, but we let it fall into disrepair. They did not repair it, did not make any efforts to improve it. It has become stale and a bit shabby. I'm as much to blame for this as you are, and maybe more. I regret this and will work to ensure that it does not happen again. I entered her completely without moving. I bent down and gently kissed her sensual lips. I believe that at some point some external forces thought it would be funny for them to blow up our house, tear down the walls, put partitions between us. They wanted you to get out of our house and move into a new one. I do not know if it was an apartment, a condominium, or a mansion. All I know is that it wouldn't be ours anymore. I don't think that was the case, she said softly, nervously. Maybe they just wanted to help fix my side a little bit. There is no your side and my side. This is our home. It wasn't some jack of all trades that we chose to make things better. It was a damn night thief. Enemy. I felt a little anger rising in me and hit the malleable depths of Donna powerfully. He wanted to steal my woman. I completely penetrated her again. I need a name, Donna. There are barbarians at the gate. I need to defend this. What are you going to do? She asked nervously, her body trembling. To protect our home. Make sure they never try to tear it down again. Can't we just move on, Alan? I'll make sure it's over. No, I can't trust you yet. You betrayed us. You invited them in. You unlocked the gate. I'm going to shut them down. The name Donna. Gerald Wheaton. A name I've never heard before. Thank God, not one of our friends. I bent over her, my face inches from hers, and entered her firmly. I'm mad at you, my love. I was so angry. This would never have happened if you hadn't opened the gate. She betrayed our marriage. You were a traitor for letting someone else interfere. It will be a long time before I can fully trust you to be the sole protection of our marital home. Do you understand? She nodded nervously. I never wanted this to happen. I'm sorry. I'm forgiven, I whispered, reaching out to gently stroke her cheek. Forgiven, but not forgotten. Not yet. What are you going to do? What is it? She asked again. First, here with you to rebuild the walls. I'm slamming the gate right now. After that, I'll take care of the invaders. That's all you need to know. I stopped talking and knocked my wife down. Nevertheless, she answered by calling me before I finished. We were lying together, and we were both a little uncomfortable with the way things were going. I pulled her closer. You're not going to talk to him, warn him, or anything like that. If he gets close to you, send him away. If he persists, scream, fight, scream, whatever it takes. But don't engage in conversation. Call me if you can. Do you understand? There is no second chance anymore. Yes. Shouldn't I tell him it's over? There's no need for that. I've already done that. Her eyes widened, and I felt a shiver of fear run through her. Be careful, she said softly. I smiled. These words helped to close the gap in many ways. Trust but verify. The phrase that became famous thanks to Ronald Reagan in his relations with the Soviets, interestingly, was coined by Vladimir Lenin. Trust but check. I do not know why it seemed so funny to me. That was my new motto. The confrontation began on Friday. On Saturday morning, we confirmed our contract again, and it was almost as if we had turned back the clock by 8 years. Almost. I instructed my wife to pick up the children and for the first time this season refused to participate in a football match. Time was still very important, and there were things that needed to be done. It took less than an hour to download the software to her smartphone, Stolen Gold for iPhone. It wasn't cheap, well over $100 with access for 6 months, but it allowed me to track everything she was doing, including remotely activating her GPS and tracking her movements. I could read her messages and all the call logs. I had the opportunity to record her calls and even, if I wished, make secret calls and eavesdrop on her conversations. It was almost unnoticeable. Technology has come a long way. For another $80, I had full access to her computer, email, chat logs, web history, keylogger, and the like. I was surprised how easy it was. SpyTech Spy Agent Stealth Edition, if you're interested. Less than 30 minutes to purchase, download, install, and configure. A 30-minute round trip to Radio Shack resulted in an X-Blue recording device plugged into a telephone outlet and my computer. He recorded and logged all phone calls, including answering machine messages, and stored them digitally on his computer. It also tracked the caller ID, time, and length of messages. I bought a GPS recorder, tracker, while I was there for about $180. The TechNet TTL 1000 didn't do everything I wanted. I wouldn't have a live GPS tracking, but I could download the full histories of all her travels. That should have been enough. I ordered the best online with live tracking, but didn't want to wait for it to arrive. I had to wait until she got home and install it under the hood. This required a 12V power supply instead of batteries. He also had a 1GB SD card that I had access to view the logs. I bought a spare memory card so I could swap them while I was analyzing them. It's almost $400 in total, but it's much cheaper than hiring a private investigator or the cost of a divorce. I downloaded Donna's old call and text history from her phone. When she returned from the game, I received excited news from the children while she was feeding them lunch. After the meal, I took her aside to have some privacy. I handed her the phone. I have a history of your calls. I want you to get it off your phone. Don't hide it under Emily anymore. Who did you talk to about this relationship of yours? It wasn't a relationship, she began. Don't start lying now, Donna. I don't have the patience for this. We need to move forward. Every lie, every deception throws us back 2 steps. Another crack in the foundation of our house. Now the truth. Who knows about this? She blushed. Karen and Lisa. I sighed. Damn it, Donna. You're not making it easy for me. They are both complicit in this betrayal. She shook her head emphatically. Not Lisa. I swear she fought with me the whole way. Please call her. She will tell you the truth. I nodded. She's your sister, so I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to talk to her. Karen is being treated the same as that bastard. It's cut off. No more relationships at all. No, Alan. You can't do that. She's been my best friend since college. I'll make it easier for you, Donna. You can cut it off or I will. If I do, I promise you will never see or hear from her again. Ever. If you do this, then there is a chance for reconciliation in the future. Minimal but possible. Your choice. Why are you so harsh and cold about this? So threatening. It's not like you. You're not that kind of person. There was anger in her voice, which made me even angrier. It's me. It's about me. The part that I keep away from you because I loved you so much. I took you in. I can be tough and even cruel if necessary. It's important that you understand. At this point, we are no longer a team protecting our marriage. I'm in control of everything. Everything will be done my way. There is no other way out. Deviation from my rules will mean a complete and total war on my part. Take no prisoners. Absolute and merciless destruction. This is the most important thing in the world for me, and I will use all the forces that I own or control to be sure that I will achieve my goal. You're scaring me, Alan, she whispered. Good. Now, as I said, get it over with Karen. You're allowed 1 call to interrupt this. I never expect to hear from her again. I'll find out if you don't. I reserve the right to check your phone and email whenever I want. You've lost my trust, and until you get it back, you're under surveillance. To be fair, you can also check my phone and email. I have nothing to hide. What about Lisa? I said I'd talk to her. If everything works out, she can be your outlet. You can talk to her about everything. I'll let you know by the end of the weekend. Where do we go from here, Alan? I feel like I've already lost you. You don't trust me and you're spying on me. I'm afraid of you. We're talking, we're opening up. We are discussing what went wrong and how we can fix it. We are in no hurry to fix the cracks in our relationship. We are renovating our house. At some point, you lost respect for me. If you don't respect me, you're going to be afraid of me, damn it. I will spend a lot of time and effort to regain your respect while you work to restore trust. We make this a priority in our lives. I've never lost respect for you, she retorted. Your actions suggest otherwise. What if that's not enough? What is it? She asked. That's not an option. You don't want to know what happens if you break our contract. That's all I'm going to say about it. There won't be another chance. I didn't break it, you know? You have to believe me. I thought about it, but I wouldn't do it while we were still married. I know, that's why we're giving this a second chance. I know a lot more than you think. How much? What is it? She asked. You'll never know. A lot. Let's leave it as it is. But how? I said you'd never know. Leave it alone, Donna. Be happy that you've finished this before you go too far. I called her big sister, Lisa. We had a long heart-to-heart conversation. Donna was honest. Lisa was totally against what she was doing and was on the verge of telling me before things went too far. I've included her in my plan, at least to some extent. I asked her to be Donna's confidant moving forward and help her get back on the straight and narrow road. Why did you stop it? If she wanted to leave, why not kick her to the curb? Lisa asked. I love her. She is the mother of my children. She made a mistake, and we caught her before she went too far. I would rather fight for my marriage and my wife than let someone else steal her from me. If I had thrown her to the side of the road, it would have been ugly. I don't believe in rewarding traitorous fools and predators. I will do whatever is necessary to make sure that she and that bastard pay dearly, very dearly, if necessary. You won't hurt her, will you? Ask her. She knows. She seemed agitated. I wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of you, would I? No, you definitely wouldn't. On the other hand, I am very loyal and grateful to those who are on my side. I can't thank you enough for trying. I owe you one, Lisa. Let's fix your damn marriage, put some common sense in her stupid head, and we'll be even. I laughed. I don't think so. I'll owe you even more. I don't mind being in your debt. I will gladly accept all the help you can give us. She's my little sister, Alan. I'll help, but if she fails, I won't be the one to tell you. I understand. Let's try to make sure she doesn't do it, okay? She nodded. It was good to have understanding and an ally. The conversation with Karen's husband, Jerome, didn't go quite so well. He met me at Dubliner, our local bar, where I bought him a beer. What's going on, Alan? You've never invited me out for a beer before? The first and the last, I'm afraid. Your wife was involved in the destruction of my marriage. I stopped it. She is no longer allowed to interfere in our lives in any way. Unfortunately, this also applies to you. It's too bad I like you, Jerome. Unfortunately, your wife is a treacherous, cheating fool. I saw how angry he was. His face turned red. Stop fucking calling my wife names? Donna was on the verge of an affair. Karen was encouraging her. I know that for sure. I was warned by a friend, a real friend, unlike your wife. I've checked something. I have the evidence and my wife's confession. Obviously, Karen thinks that cheating in marriage is normal. I don't want to share this opinion or allow anyone who adheres to it to interfere in our lives. I just thought it would be fair if you found out when we cut you two off. What kind of evidence? What is it? He asked, simmering slowly. It's none of your business. Donna stopped. The bastard who tried to seduce her will pay dearly. Anyone who helped will pay too. I'm honestly warning you. Karen helped. I don't believe you. You don't have to do that. It won't change my reaction either way. She's my enemy now. You have a choice. Get out yourself or try to protect her. Anyway, she has to pay. What the fuck, are you threatening me? I sighed. I did it out of politeness, Jerome. Like I said, I've always liked you. This is a warning. You have a little time, not much. Then the hammer is lowered. I handed him the list. Surveillance tools. If you want to know more about the woman you married, use them. Or don't. It doesn't matter to me. I got up and left $20 on the counter. It was nice to see you. If you decide to break up with her completely, let me know. I will try to protect you from the consequences. He was looking at me as if I had a third eye. I don't believe you. Yes, you will find out, confirm it, and stay away. I called work and took a few days of emergency leave. I have agreed to check my email and deal with any serious issues that arise, but I will not be in the office for at least 3 days. Maybe within a week, I started to rebuild my relationship with my wife. Little things, notes, a single flower, small jewelry items. I invited her to dinner. I complimented her. I expressed an interest in making love to her every night, and she responded in kind. She didn't know that I took time off from work. Every morning I left the house at the usual time and worked on my plan. It all started with a little scouting, finding out where he lived from public records and tracking his car, a 2-year-old Sebring. I followed him from his house to work, almost without fear that he would recognize me. I've definitely never seen him before. On Tuesday, I placed a GPS tracker on his car, ordered by mail, with a paid service plan for real-time monitoring, and received operational information about his location. When I returned home that evening, at the usual time, I knew not only where he lived, but also where he worked, where he went, and what he did. I even managed to insert a DVR into his car, which I could listen to while he was in the car. I could download conversations or even remotely turn on the microphone and listen. I sent him an email from my wife's computer. I tried to use the same words and tone that she had used in her previous contacts with him. Dear Jerry, it's over. I was wrong to respond to your advances. Please do not try to contact me again. I am married and I want to rebuild my marriage. Please accept this letter as a sign of friendship. I will fondly remember our times together, but they are over. Please, if you really care about me, don't make this any more difficult than it already is. Donna. The attachment was an executable file. Clicking on it, I launched a simple slideshow of 4 photos of my wife. None of them were particularly obscene. A simple program also installed software on his computer. It's damn illegal. That night, I was able to download his email history, web history, passwords, and other useful content. Another $80 was well spent. On Wednesday, I conducted an analysis of the intelligence I had gathered. The information was disturbing, but not particularly surprising. Donna deleted her emails, but that idiot saved them all. I was able to read all the 6 months of effort in which he slowly won her over, played on her emotions, strengthened her, destroyed us. She was beautiful, sensual, intelligent, incomprehensible. I was a cold, controlling, unloving user, and was almost certainly cheating on her. He was good at it, slowly ingratiating himself into her confidence. It was interesting how they met. Karen introduced him at a volunteer event at the church. Our damn church. What a slippery way to pick up women. Karen wasn't just a mediator, she was the instigator. Damn, she needed to pay. It turned out that this asshole was a serial seducer. My wife wasn't his only target. He was still in touch with the 2 previous conquests and was aiming for another one. He was married with 1 child, to a woman who didn't understand him, at least that's what he said, who was too busy with her job to devote time to her family. She was cold and heartless. Over time, he painted a less than flattering portrait of her, little by little. I was sure that his wife knew nothing about his inclinations. Having full remote access to his computer, I created a clear picture of this predator scumbag. It's going to be too easy. I decided to spend half a day at work on Thursday to catch up. Donna woke up when I woke up and made me breakfast. She sat down next to me, sipping her coffee. She had almost a whole week to cook. I was an idiot, Alan. I do not know how I allowed this to happen. Now I look back at my actions, and it seems to me that I have become a different person. I don't like the person I've become. I nodded. You were seduced by an expert. You were hardly his first conquest, and he's already started on the next one. She reached under her robe and handed me her phone. He tried to contact me. When I wasn't texting or answering his calls, he showed up here yesterday, insisting that I talk to him. I needed to talk to him. I told him it was over, and I never wanted to see him again. I threatened to call the police if he didn't leave. I handed the phone back to her without looking at it. I know, a little after 1 o'clock. Thank you for telling me. He won't bother you anymore. I knew he was staying at the house by GPS tracking. I didn't know the rest, but I was happy enough to let her believe that I had done it. Take her off balance and maintain the appearance of omniscience and omniscience. Please don't do anything stupid, Alan. He's not worth it. I'll be careful, just stay away from him. Tell me about your conversations with Karen and Lisa. Again, pretending that I already knew. I told Karen that she almost cost me my marriage, and I won't have anything to do with her anymore. She wasn't very happy about it. I also called all our mutual friends and made sure they understood that I no longer wanted to communicate with her, and if she was invited to any events, I would not attend. I told them that I appreciated my marriage, and she was ready to destroy it. I don't think we'll have to worry too much about seeing her around. Do you want to explain how she was involved in your meeting with that bastard? I asked calmly. Do you know? She stared at me in surprise. Then she shook her head. Of course you know. You knew everything. Why didn't you stop me, Alan? You should have stopped me. No, Donna. If I had interrupted you too soon, you would never have believed me. I've already lost your respect. You had to decide that it was wrong to do it yourself. It was the only way I could trust you. It was the only way things could go back to normal. Unfortunately, you didn't do that. I only intervened at the last moment when your next action would have destroyed what we had. I couldn't let that happen. I love you and our daughters too much to expose them to what I would be forced to do. She was clearly upset. I'm sorry. I know you're probably tired of hearing that. I swear I didn't even see this coming. He was just a friend when I needed him. To talk to someone. He was kind to me. He understood. Of course I was. He wanted to use you. He wanted to cuckold me, take you away, use you, and throw you away like he did with others. He wanted to demolish our house. You're a smart woman, Donna. How could you not see that? I don't know. He seemed like the perfect gentleman, and Karen kept telling me that I wasn't doing anything wrong. It's okay to have male friends from a different point of view. Even the first time he kissed me, it was like kissing a cousin. Friendly, nothing more. I do not know how I allowed this to continue to grow. You opened the gate. The first time you shared intimacy, talked about your feelings, about your relationship and mine, you let him in. He liked making you talk about it, didn't he? She nodded. But he always supported me. He wanted to help me, to make our marriage stronger, make me feel better. I hope you've learned your lesson. You have to understand, Donna, that strange men don't want to become friends to help you. They want to use you, make you their cheater. The better ones might want to take you in. Guys like your boyfriend want to use you and throw you away. This is how they get pleasure. It was a painful education, she admitted quietly. It's still hard to believe. He seemed so sweet. Enough with that bastard and that cheating Karen, his partner in crime. I'll deal with them. What about Lisa? 2 long conversations. She chewed me out, but it was good. She says I'm lucky. I agree. She's a good girl. I don't think I've ever realized that. I wish I had made more effort to get to know her better. I'm glad you have her in your life. She looked worried. I want to ask you something, she finally said. Whatever you want. Ask me anything. I want you to be free to talk to me about everything. I have too much free time. I'd like to do something to keep myself occupied. The children will both go to school next semester. I think I want to get a job, or at least do some volunteer work. That's a great idea. We don't need the money, so it shouldn't be a problem. You can find a job if you want. Continue your studies or become a volunteer. I will support you in any endeavor. You're a smart woman. I'm sure that you will succeed in whatever business you choose. It will be a part-time job. Hopefully only while the kids are at school. I don't want anything to interfere with what we're doing. Good. If you need my help with anything, job search, references, resume, anything, just let me know. She stood up and hugged me. You love me, don't you? I'd hope you wouldn't even have to ask, baby. You are everything to me. I'm sorry that I started to forget about it. I'm going to make it up to you. You'll never have to worry about me again, I promise. I know. I'm ready to take some of the blame on myself. I was not involved in keeping the love between us alive and vibrant. I didn't keep our house in order as I should have. This is one mistake that I will not allow to happen again. I love you, Alan. Thanks. I love you too. On the same day, I hired professional help. I was hoping to avoid this, but the information that appeared on the bastard's computer demanded it. It wasn't cheap, it cost me $2,000, but it was fast. I had the results on Friday morning. I was ready to start my game. Public libraries are a great thing. Computers are free to use and mostly unprotected. Within 20 minutes after I sat down, I plugged the USB into the machine and installed an anonymous private VPN service. This bastard was careless enough to leave his credit card information on his computer, and he paid for the service. I felt like I had covered my tracks as well as I needed to. His emails regarding his previous conquests, along with some very compromising photos, were sent to their spouses as well as them. The full story of his current ongoing seduction was passed on to the hapless husband, including information about his previous successes. GPS locations outlined nefarious dinners and a planned future meeting. The spouse, who will soon be cuckolded, was informed of the place, date, and time. One of the women he was involved with worked with him in the same company. She no longer worked in the same building, but that didn't change anything. His email contact list was filtered to get all of the company's emails, and all of his colleagues were included in a very informative message about his activities with a colleague and everyone else he was associated with. All customer contacts extracted from his emails were notified of the type of person he was, in detail, with photos. This was just the beginning. Donna was dressed as I asked. The kids spent the night with her sister, and I invited her to dinner and dance. She turned down several men who asked her to dance while spending time with me. I thought we had a great time for the most part, but she seemed distracted. At the end of the evening, on the way home, she turned on the radio. It started, didn't it? That's right. He must have called home and on my phone at least a dozen times. He left some disturbing text messages. He blames me. I'm sorry, I'll make sure he stops. I hope you never have to hear from him again after this weekend. Would it be ugly? Maybe. For him. I've done everything I can to keep you from this. God, I really screwed up, didn't I? Yes. It's the water under the bridge. Did you have a good time tonight? She nodded, her hand stroking my shoulder. I did it. I should have brought this up earlier. It was distracting. I keep thinking about it. Please trust me. Don't be afraid to ask anything. At worst, I'll explain that I'm not going to tell you. I truly believe that the lack of communication in the last couple of years has been our biggest problem. I know. It's better now, isn't it? I think so. It's getting better. We still have a lot to do, but I believe that the situation is improving. We should do this more often. We need to find time just for you and me. I want it. Can we do this once a week? Time just for the two of us? I don't see why not. I like being alone with you. Really? Really? You have to stop doubting my feelings for you, Donna. I love you. I've always done that. I will never stop. I may not have succeeded in expressing them, and I regret that. I will strive for the best. Are you going to show me this tonight? What is it? She asked teasingly. Over and over again if you'll let me. Let you? I will insist on it. Take me home, darling. I've been wet for you since we left the house this evening. We lay together, hugging each other in a delightful afterglow. I hugged her and she hugged me tightly to her. I like that feeling, she said softly. Me too, trust me. She giggled, pressing her bottom against me. Oh, I know. She was silent for a few moments. I need this, Alan. Together this time, later. Hugs and hugs. I thought about it and realized that she was right. We were in a rut. I'm sorry, I whispered. I didn't notice the gradual changes, but now that you mention it, I'm almost ashamed that I didn't do it. I took you for granted. Me too. You've been so kind to me, but I expected it, not appreciated it. I've always loved you, but I think I've gotten to the point where I wasn't in love with you. You were my husband, breadwinner, and father of my children, but you were no longer my lover. She turned to face me, slipped her leg between mine, snuggling as close as possible. She kissed me on the neck. We used to talk in bed about everyone and everything. We talked about our dreams, our goals, our fantasies. It was the most precious part of our relationship, this time together, and it slipped away. I don't even remember how or why, but it stopped. She squeezed me tighter, and I realized she was crying. Don't let us lose it again. I pulled her closer, wrapping her in my arms. She felt so small, so fragile. I kissed the top of her head. Never again, honey, I promise. She stayed in my arms until she fell asleep. Even then, I didn't want to let her go. It was a breakthrough for me. A window into how things got worse and why. I felt like a complete idiot. An extra 10 minutes of cuddling a night could help so much. It was a time for communication, just for the two of us, intimacy and openness. I let it slip away once, never again. I got up early, leaving her a note. I checked the GPS monitor and found a car parked at a motel near the highway. I went there, ready for any eventuality. I was hoping it wouldn't be necessary. At 8:30 a.m., I knocked on the door. Gerald Wheaton was a big guy, and I suspect many women would have appreciated his looks. What do you want? He asked. Don't ever call Donna again. If I were you, I'd take your balls and get out of town. If I ever see you again, you won't see anything else. I will make sure that you never contact my wife or any other woman again. Are you the bastard who framed me? He growled. I'm going to kick your ass and use your woman with pleasure. I smiled. Don't say I didn't warn you. I've been kind to you so far. I unbuttoned my jacket to show him the Ruger LC9 in its holster. Leave her alone and disappear. Last warning. I wasn't surprised when the police visited me later that morning. They asked me if I knew a certain Gerald Wheaton and if I had threatened to kill him. I explained that I had heard that he had seduced several married women and flirted with mine. I wanted him to leave her alone. I played back the recording of the conversation I had with him. I have never threatened him with any bodily harm. I told him to leave my wife alone, or I'll make sure he does. That's the thing. You didn't point a gun at him? Didn't threaten to kill him? I've never brandished any type of weapon. I never threatened him. I told him to leave my wife alone. In fact, the only threat came from him. Would you mind if we had a copy of this recording? One of the officers asked. Not at all. If you come in, I'll make a copy. The origin works in a strange way. I had more plans to deal with this scumbag. But he decided to make it easier for me. The bastard called home and yelled into the answering machine. You stupid bastards. You messed with the wrong person. I'm going to hunt you down, beat the shit out of you, and use your woman in front of you. You're going to pay for messing with me, asshole. I might even have to take care of your daughter while I'm doing this. I hope you have eyes in the back of your head because I'm coming for you. What an idiot. I had to wonder how my wife could even see anything in him other than shit stacked 6 feet 2 inches tall. I had a copy of the recording I made. I also made a copy of the logs of dozens of calls he had made in the previous days, including a recording of his latest threat. Here's the recording, officer, including a copy of the threat he just made. I wish he would stop. I don't want him to make love to my daughter. She's only 6 years old. Is there anything you can do about it? The senior officer nodded. You have to come to the station. I will file your complaint. I have no doubt that the district attorney will take this very seriously. Don't you like it when the plan turns out the way you intended? The kids were playing on the Wii when I let him in. Hi, Jerome. I'll be honest, I didn't expect to see you anytime soon. She cheated on me, Alan. I do not know how long, but my wife is a cheating fool. I'm sorry that this has affected your marriage. Come in, sit down. Can I get you a beer? This or something stronger? Whiskey on the rocks? That would be perfect. I went over to my wife, who was doing the laundry. Who is it that has come? What is it? She asked. Jerome, he found out that Karen was cheating on him. Would you be so kind as to bring us both a glass of Johnny Walker Blue on the rocks? Whiskey? I think this is the least I can offer him since it was I who forced him to understand his wife's behavior. She finished folding the towel. How much does he know? I'm not sure. I hope you can help clarify this. Me? But Alan, what she told me was strictly confidential. She was my best friend. That's the right word here. 2 glasses, 1 more for yourself if you want, and then please join us. I'm not sure I can. That would be wrong. Would it be better than sleeping with your boyfriend Gerald? To lose my family, my children? On the run, always looking over your shoulder? She looked at me intently, then shyly lowered her eyes. You're not going to let me get over this, are you? Forgiven, but not forgotten. If you're hiding other people's business, then you're only half a step away from having your own. Approval through inaction. You can see that, can't you? Great. Give me a minute, okay? She didn't seem happy about it, but I was sure she would do what she had to do. It was already close to 5 when she joined us, handing out drinks. She sat down in the chair opposite us, taking a sip from her own. Jerome looked a little surprised to see her. Hi, Donna. I'm sorry to intrude on your Saturday. No need to apologize, Jerome. I think it's partly my fault. I wasn't a great friend. Please tell him, dear. All. For how long, how often, how long, all you know is that I convinced her. This is bad. Are you sure you want to know? What is it? She asked, turning to face our guest. I don't want to, but I need to. However you can help. She sighed, taking another sip. She's a cheater. A complete cheater. I'm ashamed to admit, but we laughed about it. She was one of them in college and remained one throughout your marriage. I don't think it's been more than a couple of months without her dating someone. Even after we got married? At her bachelorette party and a week after your return from your honeymoon. She had a few regular boyfriends and she didn't want to give them up. 2 of them until they both moved about 4 years ago. Then a couple of times a week, often with both of them. Did she say why? She likes to make love to several people at once. But how? She's a stay-at-home mom. She has a lot of time to play. She always made sure to be at home and cleaned herself up before you came. She almost never did it in your house. On those rare occasions when you left town, she went a little crazy. She loved telling me about it. I was the only one she could share it with because she knew that I would never tell. After all, we were best friends. I could see that he was struggling to contain his anger. When did they move in? She was desperate for a while before she found new playmates. None of them seemed to last more than 6 months or so. Has she ever tried to get you into this? I asked. Of course she did, for many years. I constantly reminded her that I was very happily married and lived vicariously in her adventures. I really didn't think much about it, how wrong it was. She's always been like this. What are you going to do, Jerome? I asked. I don't have much choice, do I? The first thing I'm going to do is see if these are my children. Donna spoke up. That's right. She has always been very careful in this matter. She may be a cheater, but she loves you, and only you. It will devastate her. It doesn't help me much, he said angrily. Is there any way you could forgive her? Donna asked. Forgive her? For cheating on me the whole time in our marriage? I'm not enough for her. Obviously, that's never going to change. She says you're a great lover. She likes what you do for her. She's just not set up right. Maybe you could contact a marriage counselor or arrange an open marriage. That's enough, Donna, I said. It's his decision. I turned to him. If there's anything we can do to help, just let us know. I will refrain from any action until you decide. You don't deserve any of this. His eyes were red as he stared into his glass. I'm such an idiot. I thought we had a great marriage. I really did it. She's a wonderful mother and the most loving woman I've ever met. I think that's the problem, isn't it? I do not know what to tell you. I'm sorry you had to hear that from us, I said. No, it's not your fault. I'm sorry that my cheating wife almost dragged your woman away with her. He took a long sip from his glass. You don't know any good divorce lawyers, do you? I shook my head. I can't help you here. I would never get divorced and would not let this happen. I'm not set up that way. I turned to my wife. I suppose you might know one of them? She blushed. I have a card if you want me to give it to you. To be honest, I was annoyed. Why don't you do it? I don't think you'll ever need it. She shook her head. No. Excuse me for a moment. She came back with a card. I got it from Karen. He has to be the best. You have to call him before she does. Did she sleep with him? Jerome asked. I don't know. I do not think so. Great. It's just fucking great. He finished his drink, setting the empty glass on the table. Sorry for the intrusion. I would say it was fun, but that would be a lie, wouldn't it? It was instructive. Donna stood up and hugged him. I'm so sorry, Jerome. She really loves you. She still loves you. She's just broken. If you had it in your heart, maybe you could cure her. I don't understand how, he said. Thanks for the drink. At any time. If you ever need to talk to someone, feel free to call, okay? I said. Thanks, I'll keep that in mind. When he left, I stared at my wife. Great, you have the card of the best divorce lawyer in your hands. She blushed. I'm sorry. I never thought I'd take advantage of it. Can we please forget about this? It's in the past, right? I sat down heavily on a chair and took a sip. It doesn't matter. Your best friend was a real cheater, wasn't she? She sat down next to me, moving closer. I didn't feel particularly romantic at the time, but I didn't shy away from her. I think she's a complete nymphomaniac. They had a great personal life, but it was never enough for her. We never talked about it. I imagine you've been doing more than just holding hands. Do you have to know that? I'll tell you everything if you want. I couldn't do this to you while we were married. Believe it or not, I took my vows seriously. Kissing, touching, feeling, touching with your fingers? Is it handmade? I've done things that I'm ashamed of. I took liberties with him that I should never have taken. However, I didn't love him. But you were ready to give up on our marriage, I reminded her. I thought I wanted something new, something else. I let him convince me that I deserved it. Just a separation to see for yourself. It wasn't out of love for him. It's hard to believe now that I could even think that way. I do not know what was going on in my head. Maybe I should see a psychiatrist. I don't even recognize the person I was becoming. She rested her head on my shoulder. I didn't open the gate. They weren't locked, and I let him squeeze in a little at a time without even realizing he was doing it. He builds tiny walls between you and me with his little comments. I never saw this coming. I'm so ashamed. You deserve better. I put my arm around her, hugging her to me. I bet you won't let that happen again. The first time you were seduced by someone other than me. She nodded. Never. I've learned my lesson. If anyone's planning this shit, I'll see it coming from a mile away. I lifted her head and kissed her gently. I could use a little reinforcement of the building right now. She smiled. Children? We won't be staying long. She climbed up and straddled my knees, wrapping her arms around my neck. Her lips pressed against mine. Bam, bam, thank you, ma'am. In a hurry, for today. I'll make it up to you later. She kissed me again, smiling broadly. No way. I'm still the one who has to catch up. It works for me. Gerald was charged. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to probation. It's too damn easy with him, I thought. He was also given a restraining order to approach my family. I kept him in line, even hired my fellow detectives a couple of times. He was in the midst of an ugly divorce and ended up in the hospital. It wasn't me who beat him up, although I admit I had such thoughts. I was questioned about it, but I had a better-than-average alibi. Stupid luck. Dinner at a restaurant with Jill and her husband Roger. Only about 100 witnesses and video surveillance. The police only asked once. I had mixed feelings. I wanted to achieve this kind of revenge up close and personal. Now the risk involved was much greater. On the other hand, it looked like it was a serious ass-whipping, with broken ribs and badly bruised testicles. At that time, I retreated. As they say, revenge is a dish that is best served cold. Karen and Jerome broke up. She goes to a psychiatrist, and they both go to a marriage counselor. I do not know how he does it, living with what she did to their marriage. I have postponed another revenge against her, at least for now. The loss of her best friend, most of their mutual friends, and the state of their marriage are taking a pretty hard toll on her. She gained weight. Jerome pays for her apartment and gives her money to live on. We talk regularly, and he comes to dinner at least once every couple of weeks. He makes sure that Karen knows it too. According to Jerome, she hasn't been with anyone since he handed her the divorce papers. Maybe it was the wake-up call she needed. He's still not sure if he's going to see this through. I think love is a pretty strong thing. Whether it's trying to get her back or the medications the doctors are prescribing for her, she's at least pretending to be faithful. Personally, I don't think it will last long. As for Donna and me, our marital home is stronger than ever. She is still determined to make amends to me. I still have trust issues, but I try not to bring this up in front of her. I check her email and GPS logs. I admit less often, but carefully. I do not jump to conclusions, and so far all deviations have been false fears. She has a job, she works at a children's hospital, and she seems to like it, and she's doing very well. Money does not hurt, and the time spent has not interfered with our lives so far. We have our dates, and I'll never forget how close we came to losing it all. I'm going to fight for our marriage like a fucking cornered badger, and I'm still doing it. I make sure she knows how important she is, and we make sure to make time for us. It's working. Will I ever be able to stop checking on her, trust her completely? Perhaps over time. At this point, it's enough to know that she loves me, is in love with me, and is absolutely faithful. We are even talking about adding an extension to our house. She is only 31 years old, and constantly working with children, she talks about having another one. To be honest, I think it would be too much for me. But I'm inclined to agree if that's what she wants. I wouldn't mind having a son. I am also thinking about how to add a moat and a second set of gates to our house. She says she wants it to be a mansion. I think it's more in keeping with the castle, a 30-foot thick, 6-foot wall and loopholes for archers around the perimeter. Pots of boiling oil on the ramparts ready to destroy any invaders. I hope I'll never need them, but never doubt I'll fight and kill if necessary for our marriage. Speaking of which, it's been 3 months since anyone has heard of this bastard. There are rumors that since he lost his job, wife, and reputation, he has left. I happen to know that he never passed by an abandoned quarry 11 miles west of here. He shouldn't have tried to contact my wife anymore. He was warned. I was very glad to hear that his ex remarried a year after the divorce. I love collateral damage. As for Karen, we'll wait and see. If Jerome takes her back and she behaves well, maybe I'll let it go. Like I said, I like Jerome, I always have. If she doesn't do it, I am patient.